Hi Facebook, welcome to The Whole Is Well. We are an educational group for people who are excited about Young Living essential oils and products. We are open and available to anyone, and we have these great webinars that are here for you to learn about Young Living, our products, what to do with them, how to incorporate them into your lives, your homes, your kids, your pets, your families, and we love questions. So my name is Heather. I'm one of the leaders of The Whole Is Well group, and I believe on day maybe like 28 or 29 of August's 30 Days of Learning, I shared my story, and you can look it up and find the My Why story, and I kind of explained some trauma and stress that I had gone through, and I shared with how Young Living helped me work through that time. One of the things I mentioned in there was the oil forgiveness. Forgiveness was introduced to me as a part of the Feelings Kit, and I mentioned that I was going to do a Young Living webinar on feelings in general. And since my why, I had a lot of people express interest in it, so I decided to do it sooner rather than later, mostly because it seems like everybody has something in their life that they need to work through, and the Feelings Kit is created in order to help us find out what's in our past, handle it, and move through with it so that we can move on to a richer, more full life. Now, I have studied the Feelings Kit through Gary Young's tutorials on it. I have read about it. I could speak for hours about the Feelings Kit and what specifically each ingredient does for the emotional system, the body systems, and how it all works out. Tonight I'm going to try and do kind of like a Feelings Kit light. So I'm going to go through the 6 different oils, how they're recommended to be used, what the recommended support is, and how you can incorporate them either one at a time or into your daily life. So welcome to the Feelings Kit light. If you want to know a little bit about my story, like I said, please go back to the My Why day, but I'll tell you in a general way what introduced me to the Feelings Kit. I had gone through a pretty hard miscarriage, followed by putting my father in hospice care, followed by a pretty quick new pregnancy, and then followed by my dad's death. And that all happened in about roughly a 6-ish month period. And then shortly after my dad died, I learned that my husband of 10 years was having an affair. So I had kind of gone through a lot of trauma quickly. That news of the affair did not go well. It caused quite a bit of stress on my body, and ultimately one of the consequences was that I went into labor early and had my son 6 weeks early, premature. So we were in the NICU, and so I was home on maternity leave, grieving the loss of my father, grieving the loss of my marriage, trying to figure out how to be a new mom, and really struggling. And the Feelings Kit was introduced to me as a way for me to kind of work through this trauma. And nothing about the Feelings Kit will take away that experience from you, will take away the trauma, or tell you that you're not supposed to be feeling how you feel or reacting how you react. What it's designed to do is help you identify that trauma and fear and emotion, and get rid of the negativity and increase the positivity. Because what I found was that the negative emotions had a physical manifestation on my body. I was physically feeling the negative emotions. I was physically feeling the negative trauma. And when I started to work through that and focus on the positivity, I felt a physical difference in how my body reacted to life. And that is why I'm such a firm believer in the Feelings Kit. Now, Gary Young explains how the Feelings Kit is designed to support all of our systems, which support our emotions. And really, I'm looking at notes, which is why I'm down here. The goal is that we resolve our negative emotions so that we can have a greater potential for achieving. And we can easily do this for ourselves, or we can do this with others. Today, I'm going to just talk about doing this with yourself. And the emotional trauma that I'm going to focus on in my life, which I've gone through other types of trauma, but the trauma I'm going to focus on in my life was the trauma where it was, dead dad, husband left me, new baby, what am I going to do? I mean, it's just a lot. And there was a lot more to that story, which I won't get into because our family is a really cohesive family and I live in the present time. And one of the exciting things about moving through trauma is being on the other side. So I wish you the best as you start this journey. If you are going through something significant and you're wanting to jump into the entire feelings kit, what I'm going to walk you through today is how you apply all 6 oils at a time. It's not recommended that you apply all 6 oils and then go to work, because it really does bring up your emotions to here. And I remember doing this and feeling really out of sorts, and then realizing I didn't give myself the proper time to sit with the emotions and sit with what the oil was bringing out. But it also is so versatile that you can do 1 at a time, or I got into the habit of doing 3 or 4 right before bed. That was really effective for me. So we're going to start with looking at all the different oils. I hate how these are backwards. So it's Valor, Harmony, Forgiveness, Present Time, Release, and Inner Child. So if you want, there are tons of tutorials about each specific oil, what it does to the physical aspects of the body, how specific ingredients within it harness and change things in our body. I am not going to go into that great detail. I have pages and pages and pages of notes on that, and I won't do that tonight. So I'm just going to kind of do, like I said, sort of a feelings kit light. So how to start? So we're going to start with Valor. The feelings kit has Valor II in it, which is a blend that they created, which is really similar to Valor. The reason why they created the Valor II was because it was easier to get some of the ingredients, so it was more of a supply and demand issue, but it has the same principles as Valor. So they suggest putting 3 to 6 drops on each foot, or your temples, or your throat chakra. And your throat chakra is the chakra that controls your expression. And what Valor is meant to do is give you courage and strength. And so it's intended to help assist your body and your emotions in breaking through, to be willing to take something on. Now, the history of some of the ingredients that are used in Valor, including Roman chamomile and blue tansy, is that Romans used to use those 2 oils. They would bathe in it before battle, because then they would go into battle feeling stronger. So Young Living chose those 2 ingredients specifically because of the historical principles and benefits that they saw behind those 2 oils specifically. And what Valor does is it relaxes you and then empowers you. So you not only feel like you can finally breathe, but you feel like you can literally face the world. So Valor prepares you to feel and experience the world head on. I am going to experience and feel the loss of my father. I am going to bravely go through this divorce. I'm going to fiercely be a single mom, even though that was not my intention. And I'm actually going to gracefully and with dignity show up in life. That is what Valor did for me, and what I hope it can help do for you. Only when you can relax and feel empowered are you then able to be in a space where you can work with and deal with your emotions. And that's what brings us to the next oil, and that's Harmony. Okay? Without Harmony, we will not be able to move, right? If you are in Florida trying to drive out of the state right now, you are caught in a gridlock. There is no way you're moving. Well, the same is true in our bodies. If we are so full of stress and trauma our emotional state is literally scrambled, right? So we become paralyzed and we can't move, we can't effectively handle things. For me, what that looked like physically in my life was I couldn't get out of bed. I would be at work and I couldn't even answer the phone because I couldn't focus. My chest would be pounding, my stomach would be in knots. I would be experiencing an adrenaline rush for no reason, and I couldn't even face a normal day, let alone the magnitude of my life changes. So harmony is supposed to open up all of the chakras and just get the energy flowing. Because once you have that energy flowing, once you are in an emotional state to kind of block or to free up the blockage, you are now open. And when you have courage and now you're open, you might actually be able to let things start to happen to you, which you didn't think would happen. Like, next, forgiveness. Okay? So I've got some courage, I'm willing to be open, and now I'm asked to consider forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is tough. Forgiveness is a spot that, frankly, I wasn't naturally wanting to be in. And I talked about that more in my why. I knew that I needed to come to a space of forgiveness, not because like my ex-husband needed to be forgiven, or not because his girlfriend needed to be forgiven, or not because my dad needed to be forgiven for whatever. I needed to come to a place of forgiveness so that I could stop feeling the physical manifestations of anger. Anger physically makes us feel tight and tense and unhappy, and it makes us feel full of fear and stress. And I forgot to tell you, I applied harmony to like the top of my head. I also applied it like kind of on my wrists, and Gary suggests applying it to any of your chakras. Forgiveness, it was odd to me, but the suggestion was to literally go around your belly button in a clockwise motion with this oil. And the reason for that is the navel is the most central location for our nerves. So the theory is that if it goes into the navel, it goes everywhere in the body in a really quick manner. I mean, that's how we feed our infants when they are in gestation. It's how we, it's how we were fed when we were in gestation. So it is the central location for our body's nervous system. So it seems like the prime location to start with forgiveness. Now, we have kind of, you hear, well, if you don't forgive, you'll never be forgiven, and it's important to forgive in order to move on, and I think that's all true. For me, the spot of forgiveness was that I needed to feel like me again. And I knew that if I didn't get to a spot of forgiveness, I would continue to feel that tightness in the chest and the twisting in the stomach. And I would continue to not be able to focus at work and not get out of bed. And I wasn't going to be able to handle the challenges that were lying ahead of me or handle them gracefully. So I needed to get to a spot of forgiveness in order to be ready to move on. Now, once we have the courage from Valor and the harmony and openness and, kind of the openness and willingness of our mind of harmony, we can get into the spot of forgiveness because we're finally, the courage and the willingness of the first two oils get us to the spot that we can be secure enough that we're ready to forgive. So, we're not going to just immediately think, okay, I'm ready. It's preparing you and ready to forgive. If you're stuck, if you're not quite in that spot of forgiveness, the great thing is that the oil collection anticipates that. If we just forgave and felt better after the third oil, the feelings kit would be the feelings trio. But it's not, because life is so much more complicated than that. So when you're sitting in that moment and you're trying to forgive, you're trying to get a spot of forgiveness and it's not coming, Young Living comes with the fourth oil, which is present time, which is stay in the flippin' moment. That is so hard. I almost just swore. That is so hard to do. Stay in the moment. It's so hard to stay in the moment wherever you are. You know, as a brand new mom, you know, having just lost my dad, my husband left me. All of a sudden, I'm single. I'm this crazy busy attorney. How am I supposed to stay in the moment, Young Living? I'm worried about how I'm going to pay my bills, how I'm going to show up as a mom, how I'm going to get out of bed in the morning. How am I going to stay in the moment? But Young Living actually put some really interesting ingredients into present time to encourage us and to enhance our body's in the moment experience. So there's three different ingredients that I'll highlight from present time. One is neroli. I can't tell you what neroli is from. I can tell you it's an ancient Egyptian oil, but I do know that what it does is it invokes the present moment. So when you have invoked the present moment, you are then in today. So then it couples that with spruce. Now spruce, which is also in Valor, spruce is historically meant to be used as an anchoring oil. Can think of a spruce, right? Like a mighty tree, strong, can withstand a lot, except Montana forest fires. So a spruce oil is there to be your anchor. Okay, so you've got neroli to help you live in the moment, and then spruce to really anchor you in the moment. And then it also adds ylang ylang, which is a balancing oil. So what present time does is it helps you get in the moment and then be strong and anchored in the moment and then feel balanced in the moment. It's a really difficult spot to be in because you have to sometimes stop and say, okay, I'm experiencing this moment. And tonight I actually was able to do that. I was running late from work and I got my son home and we were kind of rushing. And I got him out of bath and he really wanted to read new books on his brand new carpet, which is really a beautiful, I want to call it a rug, but it's not a rug. It's a beautiful quilt that a dear friend of ours made, and I've now put it on his floor kind of as a rug. So he wanted to read books on his new carpet. And we read a few books, and then I put him on his little toddler bed, and he wanted me to sing, and I kept singing. And I, of course, normally try, I'm only going to sing 2 songs, and then it's nighttime. And I just stopped and experienced the present moment. And I continued to sing to him, and I prayed with him, and he said amen after the prayers, because we prayed for, you know, the people in Florida, we prayed for our president, we prayed for our family, and I just showed up. And I really think that I was a good mom tonight, and I really think that my kid going to bed a little bit later because he got some extra one-on-one time and some songs and some prayer is probably a really good present moment for him. I couldn't slow down before. I really had a struggle living in the moment, and through this experience I have learned sometimes to just stop and experience what I'm living and enjoy what I'm living. When you're so full of resentment and anger and fear and he shouldn't have this and I should be this, you're not going to be able to experience any moment. You're not going to be able to fully enjoy anything. At least that was my experience. So if you're still not there, you're still struggling, Young Living anticipates that. So sure enough, there's a 5th oil, and that's called release. This moment can be released. So I should say, where I applied present time to, like they say, to apply it to your throat chakra, like a clockwise motion in your throat chakra, because it also brings you out of the past and into the current through your expression. Now, release, they ask you to take a spot of release and put it over your liver, because they say a lot of anger and aggression and emotion is kept and harnessed in the liver. And if you've ever been really angry, I'm going to back up and be like, I'm really angry, right? You like clench your stomach muscles and you're like super angry. Well, imagine what that's doing to all of your internal organs right there. So, you know, if you're a stomach clencher, let's release it with some release. So they suggest putting release on your liver. I had to do this at night because I felt a pretty powerful impact from release. But what releases intend to do, you can also put it over your heart. It's meant to help you release those emotional baggage and storage, right? So how is that different than forgiveness? Well, what forgiveness is doing is it's opening, you've got harmony to open your mind. Forgiveness is helping you learn how to give grace to others. Where release is learning how to, in a way, give grace to yourself. Like, let go, breathe out. And one of the questions that is often asked is, how do you know if these oils are working? How do you know if you've really released a really negative emotion? For me, when I was still holding on to something, I would think about, something that happened, and boom, my chest would start pounding and my stomach would start churning, and it would feel like as if it happened yesterday. Well, that intense reaction and emotion meant that I'm still holding on to it, and I needed to release it. And what I can tell you in my experience is I put release on my liver every single day. I went through 2 bottles for a long period. And what I can tell you now is when I talk about the experience from 2.5 years ago, I don't get that pain in my chest. I don't get that knot in my stomach. The sign that you have really effectively let go of a negative emotion is when you can look back at it without that same level of intensity or pain or feeling. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be permanent. We're going to have ebbs and flows, but by working through it, you're going to be released. So that brings us to our final oil, and that is Inner Child, which is my favorite. If you caught one of my earlier videos when I was like a single woman going on a lot of dates, this was like my date perfume because it smells amazing. They suggest using Inner Child by putting a drop on your thumb and putting it on the roof of your mouth. Didn't love that experience. There is orange and tangerine in it, which is, those were specifically chosen because orange is very childlike, very adored and enjoyed by children, and tangerine invokes happiness. And so those 2 oils were specifically in here. And then they added spruce, another anchoring oil, and then as well as neroli. And I mentioned neroli was that ancient Egyptian neroli oil that is meant to help bring you in the present moment. It is also really expensive. And so Gary Young said he added it specifically to Inner Child because he wanted the inner child in us to know that we are worth it, that we are valuable, that we are worth something expensive. And then he added jasmine to kind of add some feminine balance. So how this helps us, how the inner child helps us is through all the trauma that we've gone through. Maybe you went through abuse as a child, or you had some significant loss, or you've gone through some really significant grief, you've gone through divorce, things that just didn't serve you over and over and over again. That creates memory, right? And we just naturally fit into those molds, and sometimes we develop victim mentalities, and sometimes, all of a sudden I'm going to bring the same baggage from relationship to relationship, or, I show up the same way at job after job, and I don't understand that I'm the constant problem. And what the Feelings Kit is designed to do is find out what that problem is so that we can release it and let go. And Inner Child is designed to help us find what our identity is, right? Because I was like a little girl, and then I got married and was a wife, and then I became an attorney, and then I became a mom. Like, those are all great things, but that's not necessarily who I am. And so Inner Child is meant to show us who you are. And it's supposed to really bring out your true spirit. So what is recommended is if you want to start with 1 oil at a time, maybe a couple oils at night. And where do we put release or Inner Child? They say, I already told you that, in the mouth, but I usually put it on the top of my head or like on my chest bone because I just like the smell. So they say you can do them all at once, but give yourself time if you're going to do them all at once, because the emotions are pretty intense, and in my experience that was definitely true. I would do 2 or 3 before bed and found that to be, I went through sort of a stage where I always put Valor on my heart I still do that like several times a day, but I went through a stage at night where I'd put forgiveness on my belly and release on my liver, and then I would put like harmony on my head chakra. So I'd put those 3 on and then Valor on my heart. So I was putting 3 or 4 on a lot at night. And it really helped me move through a lot of the intense feelings, the pain, the trauma, the sorrow. And I also used, therapy and friends and spiritual mentors and, church and religious programs. I'm not saying that oils did it all, but I'm just telling you what oils did do. And they did a lot for me, and I continue to use these oils on a daily basis. And if you have any questions, please feel free to message me personally or post a comment. And I wish you the best on your journey. Thanks so much.